Hey guys, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm very excited about today's guest, an interior designer. I don't think we've had an interior designer on the podcast before. Her name is Liat Siegel, a strategic interior designer, founder of Hadar Interiors, and mother of 6 from New York. She helps real estate investors, developers, and business owners maximize profits through smart ROI-driven design. Her function-first approach turns properties into high-performing assets, aligning every design decision with user experience, market trends, long-term value. From multifamily housing to hospitality and customer-facing spaces, Liat brings a fresh take on design as a profit leveler, not just decoration. That's an interesting approach. I never thought of it from that standpoint. So before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
So it's a big journey. It's a very big journey. I've been doing design for 17 years now. 2 years into college, I decided that I was going to call every architectural and design firm in Manhattan to get an internship, and a paid internship, which wasn't a thing at the time. And I wouldn't take no for an answer. I remember they wanted to offer me $5 an hour. And I was like, no, I need to have 10. And that to me at the time was like, wow, oh my gosh, $10 an hour. And I just wanted to delve into it and learn everything about it because it was part of how I grew up. Like I would move around furniture, and like my parents would come home and like the furniture in my room would be all different. It was like my coping mechanism to get through adversity in my life. And that was I was creating a sacred, safe place. And fast forward, so 17 years later, 10 years later, we started our own firm. And then I just really, as I was working with both residential and commercial, I fell in love with the business side of things. Having started our own design firm, I had to learn about sales and marketing and branding. And I think that I'm more business first than designer. Like that is the cap that I wear to every project. I ask, okay, like if it's a deli in Manhattan, what's on the menu and what's not making money? Let's take that out and optimize your square footage so that we can increase the prices and we can work with product that's actually going to sell, visually and also on the back end, making sure that they're profitable. So, I don't just come in and say, wow, this is a beautiful space, or I want to make it a beautiful space, but I come and say, how can we maximize revenue potential, lowering costs and increasing their success?
So how can strategic interior designers enhance construction ROI?
So we have a methodology of pairing the design plan next to the budget. So ensuring that everything is line itemed, the scope is very clear, and having backup options also so that we can value engineer as we go through the process, so that when we come to doing the construction bid, that we're not having to scramble and say, oh my goodness, it's too expensive. Let's have to rework the whole thing and set us back or have to, sacrifice the budget in any way. So we really enjoy working hand in hand with contractors and architects and whoever stakeholders on the team to ensure that everybody is on the same page, working together in collaboration to ensure that we're, under budget and that we are on time and that we can have amazing results.
So what does that look like if someone comes to you and says they have like, I don't know, a house that they're trying to get ready to sell, or like if they're flipping and they want to sell it and they say, hey, I need your help. What does that look like? How do you help and what does that look like?
So we actually had a recent project where they made a 250% increase in property value.
Really?
And we came in under budget with the finishes. So it looked high end without costing high end. And so when, they come to us and they say, hey, this is the scope of work, this is the budget, then we work to ensure that, okay, so maybe the scope changes if their budget is a little lower, so then we change the scope, but we still don't sacrifice the outcome. And again, even with that, we're working to ensure that the cost remains competitive so that they can have the biggest increase in property value.
And so, how do you think, how important is design to the actual sale and the and how much the property's valued at?
It's as valuable as having a buyer and a seller. Like it's the key. Like you can't bake a cake without flour, without ingredients. Okay, so you bake a gluten-free cake or whatever, but you still need some sort of flour. You need some sort of, binder. So I think that there isn't, yes, you can have, you can pick finishes and you can pick, fixtures and materials that kind of work. But if you don't have that added eye, that level of that trained eye to ensure that it looks higher value, even if it's a lower end home. We are working on creating prepackaged design plans for contractors and developers that are maybe doing entry level homes or that are working with smaller profit margins, so that they can at least have that design eye and they can at least have a coordinated scheme, but still have the profitability on the design end of things, because it's literally, with a diamond, what is its value? The value of the diamond is what we give it, right? Mm-hmm. And so the same is true with design. Everybody knows that perceived value equals actual value. When somebody perceives, that's why marketing and branding is so important. And we work on that also with our clients as well. Because the perceived value, when somebody comes and they see the first photographs on a website, on Zillow or whatever MLS, they know within 3 seconds or less that they want to go see that home. So how do you increase, right, that conversion rate, right, at top of funnel? The top of funnel is the people going on MLS or brokers seeing those properties and then giving it over to potential buyers. And so how do you get more eyeballs on your specific property and knock out the competition? That's through the pictures. Mm-hmm. And the pictures happens through the design of the space. You could have something staged, virtually staged, but then you lose that online to offline continuity where the buyer is seeing it online, but they're not experiencing it in the same way in the actual space. And so you lose a level of credibility with them if you have it virtually staged. It's an empty room, but you put, furniture and you make it look like it's, renovated, but it's really not. So you need to have that level of trust. It's the know, like, trust factor. You have that know, like, and trust with the buyer. You gain their the confidence. Then the sale is going to be that much quicker and easier and more profitable.
So how important is it to think of design, all of this stuff early on?
Even before architecture comes into play, because we work together. We're working on a project out in North Carolina, and the design needs to come, especially, I would preface to say it's strategic design that has to come beforehand, because the designer and the architect work hand in hand to ensure that everything is properly coordinated and meshing well. Because, the architect could design the exterior, the envelope of the building, and they could design the rooms or whatever, but the designer will take into consideration more nuanced how the furniture is going to be set up within the room. What's the program of how the space is being used? So that's when the collaboration, I'm such a big believer that there's not enough collaboration within the construction and design industry. I think that there needs to be more of a meshing, that contractors, architects, designers, stakeholders, everybody that's involved needs to come in from the beginning, because, along with the architect working from the beginning, I think the contractor needs to come in the beginning so that we can talk about budget and we can say, okay, this is what it's going to take, because designers, architectural or interior designers, are not contractors. Everybody has to stay in their own lane. And so it's imperative for me to have a contractor and an architect from the get-go, and vice versa, to ensure that we can have the clearest budget and execution possible. It just goes so much smoother. That's why design build firms are so amazing, because everybody's working together in unison. And so even if it's not a design build firm, we can still operate as one with the technology that we have now, sharing screens, meetings, using a tool that we like to use for our team and our clients is Slack, to make sure that communications, RFIs are, kept in check and moving forward quickly. So yeah, I think that collaboration and integration with all these and planning early on is vital for the success of any project.
And it'll prevent costly mistakes as well.
Yeah, 100%. And communication, right? Communication, especially you're in law, like that's a no-brainer. Having everything written, having everything explained 20 times over if you need to, till you're blue in the face. That helps avoid any potential issues, having it all spelt out and everybody working together as a team.
So how do you pitch the design idea as a value add to contractors and to owners?
I just ask them if they want to make more money.
All right. So tell me about some of your favorite success stories in this space then.
Yeah. So, I mean, the property value increase is everything, like I had mentioned before. And then just going in and we worked on a project in Times Square, and it never got pushed through because COVID happened. So, but it was just before that, and we had remapped out the entire space. It was actually for a church, and it was their overflow room, and we had presented that everything should be flipped. The way that it was right now was just, they had plenty of light from Broadway that they could bring in. And so and they wanted to also add a level of service, like a cafe, that could bring in more revenue for their organization to do more good things. So we had set up lounge space and cafe space and all of that, and really make it a more inviting, warm environment for all their congregants. So those kind of, when mapping out a space, taking into consideration all the potential revenue levers that are there, whether it's now also using this massive 20,000 square foot space for also, weddings and celebrations and stuff like that's another revenue add for them. So, these type of strategic decisions made early on really help. It's a no-brainer. I've had many clients say to me, I don't want to work with anyone else, because they are not investor fluent. They're not, money, they're not understanding, or, maybe they do understand, but not to the extent, or have the systems in place in order to, it's not all talk. It's actual implementation of everything that I talk about.
So do you work nationwide, or are you only in New York? So what does that look like working with clients remotely?
So, I mean, we do, because of the systems that we have in place, everything is done through screen sharing. Even our 3D software that we use for floor plans, it converts automatically to 3D. So the floor plan and the 3D, you can see at the same time. So we'll share in real time and walk them through the space and the decisions that we made. So, and we can literally, as we're on the call, change out materials, move walls, and make real-time decisions so that we have the best results possible. And that also saves them from me having to travel. Like I'll travel when I need to project manage and ensure install happens properly, but I really don't need to be on site. If anything, just to see the space, and then maybe towards the end, and everything else, even material selection now, it's fabulous. Like I order it the day before, even tiles or fabrics or wall finishes, lighting, I'll order it the day before, and then the next day it's at my doorstep,
Right.
and so I can do the same thing for my clients. I can literally send them a package of materials so that they can see it, they can feel it, touch it, and if they have an architect on site or the contractor needs to know and have the spec book ready, that they have everything on hand.
And that's my next question. Like, how involved are you on like the actual construction side? You check in, or
Oh
you
yeah,
just in the
I love
design?
it. I love construction. My grandfather and my father were both, well, my father is still both in construction. And so I grew up, I remember at 12 years old, just sitting next to my father, and he was doing perspective drawings and just loving it. So aside from just moving around furniture, I understand the technical side of things. Now, I'm not a contractor, which is why I lean on people in their zone of genius. That's what they're good at, right? And so I lean on them, but I have a deep understanding and affinity for construct. I love, figuring out the best layout for a space. How can we move walls? But at the same time, considering, okay, is this cost effective? Is there a better way that we can do this in order to and still make a big impact?
So I know you kind of hit on this, but how does the function first come into your design?
So it's really not just about aesthetics. It's about how does the space function? How is it used? What are the people? Even when we do a restaurant or an office space, I like surveying the people that are using the space. I don't want to just know about what the stakeholders want. I want to know the people, boots on the ground, how they're enjoying or not enjoying the space. I want to know from the customers. I want to survey them and find out what they don't like,
Mhm.
so that we can improve the customer journey, the customer experience. We did an office space where the receptionist literally came up and hugged me after the construction and design and everything was finished, and she said, "I can't thank you enough. I feel like I actually want to put on makeup every day. I want to get dressed up. I feel like I want to be, like I'm feeling happier and I'm smiling at the people coming in because the space is a good suit, right? When you go to an interview, it's the suit you put on to impress. It's the not costume, right? But it's your best foot forward. Whatever you were wanting, like a contractor showing up in a pickup truck. That's like, right. It fits them because that is what they do. They're fitting the part. They're acting, walking the walk, and talking the talk. So um, it's imperative to look at how the space functions, um, what is its role, and getting everybody that uses the space on board and excited about it. Because ultimately, I believe wholeheartedly that people that feel good do good.
Great.
And so when somebody feels taken care of and they're not like working in a outdated, ratty place, feels like management doesn't care about its people.
Yeah.
Whereas creating amenities and conversation nooks and understanding how people use the space to create a home away from home. This is where they're spending most of their day. Or if it's a residential, property, or whatever the space is, the same is true for any space. Anybody that feels good in that space is going to feel up leveled, and they're automatically psychologically um, going to be able to function at a higher level.
So if somebody wanted like to remodel their space and work with you, what does that look like?
So we have a system called the ROAD method, return on emotional, environmental, and experiential design. And so we have a system that we walk through in order to ensure that we capture all of the data, right? It's data, function, and strategy first. And so we capture all of that data, do an analysis, And then once we have all that analysis, talking to the people using the space, the customers, etc., then we put it in that plan into action, and create a spec book and create all the drawings and technical documentation that will help them to properly communicate to the contractors or whoever, the stakeholders involved, what that looks like. And along the way, we are constantly touching base throughout the process to discuss what we put together and ensure that it still aligns with what everybody has in mind.
Interesting. And then I guess like, you make selections throughout that. Like you should, like if I wanted to get something done, you'd ship it here to me to Texas, and then I could feel everything, touch everything, and make the selections.
Yes, 100%.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me about your favorite project.
My favorite. Oh, that's so hard. That's so hard. I mean, I think the projects that are in motion are always my favorite. And being just part of the collaborative process, I love collaboration. I can't say that enough. I'm a people person. I think I love listening to ideas that others have, and working together to ensure that we have the best outcome possible. Things don't always, especially, I'm sure your audience knows, they never go as planned. And there's always issues along the way. My favorite projects are the ones where we have a solid team and everybody is just respects everybody else's roles and are communicative. I have this one contractor that I love working with here, and because he is so focused on attention to detail, and he's just quality, like really understands people, and over communicates to ensure that everything is aligned.
No, that's so important. So how do you manage your clients' expectations, like coming in and throughout the project?
I think in the beginning it was really hard because you want to make everybody happy. Well, at least I did, I started off more as a people pleaser, and that was difficult. It was a difficult lesson to learn that I had to, from the beginning, from the get-go, tell them, even if they had certain expectations, because everybody comes in looking at HGTV and other TV shows and think that it's going to be a certain way, and it's hard to tell them it's not. That's not whatever you see on TV. It's a lie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lie. And they're like, but why? Why can't you do that? I don't understand. And that is challenging. And so over the years, I've gotten better and better at just saying, well, this is what it is, and you have to trust me, trust my expertise, and know that I've done so many projects to know that this is how it works. And if you, especially when clients want to project manage their own and like micromanage, that is like the worst. And that is where things always fall apart. So in setting expectations, I think that is literally the number one thing that, I had to learn to put my foot down. And sometimes I'm still not, 100% on that. And it's a work in progress. But that is literally the number one thing, putting safeguards and boundaries into place, that they can't just, with change orders and scope creep, that those things can't destroy the quality and the integrity of the project is really key.
No, and just being upfront about what it is, whatever it is, on the front end will prevent most disputes. It's when we have a meeting of those expectations of what they expect and what reality is, that they're not the same, that we get in trouble.
Right. Exactly. And then having everything written, and like contractually, and also throughout the project, and not having communication splintered, right? And making sure that it's all in one place. Like, we really, really emphasize working in one place, whether it's email. I don't like using WhatsApp. I think that things really, honestly, personally, I know a lot of people do, but I think they get lost. I like having a place that everything can be tracked, and in a very clear manner. So if there's any questions, I can go back to that date and say, hey, look, we discussed this. I told you guys, I warned you that this was, you decided, you signed a waiver. Like,
But
I'll have clients sign waivers if it goes against, my recommendations or whatever. You want to take on that liability, that's up to you. But having that clear communication really, really helps prevent that lack of or that splintering in expectation.
no, exactly. And then everybody gets upset because it's not what they expected.
Right.
Especially if you residential or residential design and you're in somebody's home and they have this
Right.
picture of what it's going to be. I can imagine you working with homeowners is probably pretty challenging.
Yeah, I mean, with homeowners, I find there's a lot more psychology involved. Like you have to end up becoming the psychologist.
Okay.
So that's why synergy is key. Like making sure that the husband and wife are they're communicating, that they have good synergy between them, because it always trickles down to everyone else. And having good clients who respect and value what you do is vital. And it's a lot easier working with people. Again, the key here is whether it's working with a team, whether it's contractors, architects, or the client themselves. The key is working with people that respect you and that are aligned with um, your vision, not the vision of the space, but the vision of how you work and how you operate, the ethos.
And have you had to turn clients down because you didn't fit?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's just not worth it. Having 6 kids and running a business and a home, it's not worth it to have that emotional energy drain. Um, our life is too short and precious to work with people who just don't value what you bring to the table.
No, I agree. I tell my clients all the time is like, especially the clients that end up in a dispute, usually tell me like, I knew on the front end that I shouldn't have taken this job. And so like my
Yeah,
word is like, if you feel that way, don't take the job. I
yeah,
know you might need the work, but in the long run, it's not going to be worth it.
right, right. 100. There's always red flags.
Yeah,
There
I agree.
are.
And it's
Yeah,
listening to them that makes the difference.
100%. Yeah, listening is everything.
I know. And trusting your gut is everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, somebody wanted to find out about more about you or your company, where would they go?
You can go on our website, hadarinteriors.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn under Liat Siegel.
Awesome. And we'll put all this in the show notes. But thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks.